In a dusty town where most children walked barefoot, Tama dreamed of running. He dreamed of feeling the wind in his hair, the sun on his face, and the rhythm of his feet pounding the road. Above all, he wanted to run free. Most days in the town of Idiata were a struggle to simply survive. There wasn't enough food for everyone, so people went hungry. There weren't enough shoes, so most children ran around barefoot, and there certainly weren't any fancy running tracks or trainers. If you wanted to run, you ran for your life. And yet here was Tama, a scrawny 12-year-old boy with big dreams, daring to imagine a different life beyond the dust and despair. You see, Tama wasn't like the other kids. He wasn't interested in stealing food or begging for change. Instead, he had this wild idea of entering the annual Ideatown Marathon. But there was one teensy-weensy problem. He didn't even own a pair of shoes. Some kids would have shrugged at this huge obstacle and given up on their dream right away. But not Tama. Instead, he got to work, taking steps to turn his dream into reality. Every evening after school, Tama would visit the local junkyard. It wasn't much to look at, really, just an unsightly pile of discarded junk. But to Tama's creative mind, it was a treasure trove waiting to be explored. He started collecting old tires, their rubber worn smooth by countless miles on the road, and braided them together using lengths of rope salvaged from a tattered tarpaulin. For the soles, he found some broken sandals, carefully peeled apart, and whose leather, though cracked and faded, still held its shape. And finally, for the uppers, he used scraps of cloth from a junkyard, a patchwork of faded denims, colorful rags, and striped shirts, each piece whispering stories of lives lived and journeys taken before ending up here. As the days passed, Tama's shoes took shape, odd and mismatched, held together with a mix of sawdust and glue. But they were his, and they told his story. His neighbors either laughed or looked away when they saw him putting the finishing touches on his shoes made out of trash. His classmates at school thought he was crazy. Shoes made out of trash. What's next? A shirt made out of potato peels? They taunted him. Don't waste your time, Tama, they said. You'll never win. But Tama kept running. Every morning before sunrise and every evening after sunset, he'd lace up his shoes and hit the dusty roads outside of town. At first, his pace was slow and uneven, his makeshift shoes slapping against his legs. But he didn't care. With every step, he felt lighter, freer, more alive than he ever had before. One day while he was running, he met an old woman walking in the opposite direction. She stopped and stared at Tama's shoes. "Where are you going, young one?" she asked, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "I'm training for the marathon, ma'am," Tama replied proudly. The old woman smiled. "And what makes you think you can win?" she asked, gesturing to his shoes. Tama stopped and looked down at his feet. He had never really thought about winning. He just wanted to run. But as he looked up at the old woman's kind face, he realized that he had nothing to lose. "Why not?" he said with a shrug. The old woman chuckled and tapped him on the shoulder. "Keep at it, young one," she said. "You never know what the future may bring." And with that, she continued on her way, leaving Tama to his thoughts. Weeks went by, and Tama's shoes, though battered and worn, held up surprisingly well. His classmates still teased him, but now their laughter was laced with grudging respect as they watched him pass them by during their daily run. Tama also began saving money for the marathon entry fee. Each day he earned a few extra coins by collecting recyclable materials from the junkyard and the town dump. It wasn't much, but he was determined to make it work. The day before the marathon, Tama stood in front of the registration desk, clutching his handful of coins. He looked at the other runners, their expensive shoes and sleek uniforms, and felt a pang of self-consciousness. But then he took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I'm here to register," he said. The clerk looked down at Tama's shoes and then back up at his dusty face. "You can't run in those," she said dismissively. "What?" Tama's voice trembled with a mix of anger and sadness. "But I've been training. I have to run," the clerk sighed. "Look, kiddo, the race is tomorrow. Go home and get yourself a proper pair of shoes." Tama looked down at his feet, tears threatening to spill over. Was his dream really over? Had he worked all this time for nothing? At that moment, the old woman from the junkyard appeared beside him. "I believe this young man has what it takes to run," she said to the clerk. "Let him participate." The clerk hesitated, torn between the rules and the old woman's plea. Seeing his chance, Tama blurted out, "If I win, I'll give the prize money to charity. Please, ma'am, just let me run." The clerk's heart melted at Tama's earnest plea. "All right," she said with a sigh. "You can run, but I'm warning you, don't blame me when you trip and fall." Tama's face lit up with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, his eyes shining with determination. That night, lying in his dirt floor house, Tama couldn't sleep. His mind raced with thoughts of the upcoming marathon. He knew it would be tough. He'd have to run 26 miles, and if he wasn't careful, he could hurt himself. But the thought of giving up wasn't even an option. He had come too far to quit now. As the first rays of sunlight peeked through the cracks in his walls, Tama got up and started to prepare. He ate a simple breakfast of bread and fruit, put on his handmade shoes, and headed out into the pre-dawn darkness. When the other runners saw him, they laughed and jeered. But Tama ignored them. He was focused on the road ahead, and then the starting gun fired. At first, Tama stayed near the back of the pack. He knew he wasn't the strongest or the fastest runner, but he was determined to finish the race. As the miles ticked by, Tama's legs grew heavy and his breathing became labored. But he kept putting one foot in front of the other. He thought about the old woman's words, "You never know what the future may bring," and pushed himself harder. Meanwhile, the crowd along the route had gathered. They had heard about Tama and his story, and many had come to see him run. Whenever Tama felt like giving up, he would look at the cheering crowd and remember why he had started running in the first place. As Tama approached the finish line, the clock read 4 hours and 22 minutes. To everyone's astonishment, he had done it. He had completed the marathon. The crowd roared with applause and many ran towards Tama, eager to congratulate him. Some reached out to touch his mismatched shoes, while others marveled at his dusty, determined face. To Tama's surprise, he hadn't come last. In fact, he had finished among the top runners. News of Tama's victory spread like wildfire. People who had doubted him were now praising his creativity and courage. His story touched the hearts of many, and soon he had offers of support and encouragement from all over the country. From that day forward, Tama's life changed. He received new shoes and clothes, and his handmade ones became treasured relics of his journey. Tama's story is a testament to the power of dreams. It shows that no matter how difficult your situation may seem, it's always possible to achieve your goals if you have the heart to start. Sometimes all you need is a dream and a little bit of sawdust and glue to chase it.